What if a marriage proposal wasn't about love, but about a secret 40 years in the making? Today on Afrika Timeless Tales, we bring you a story that will challenge everything you think you know about destiny, revenge, and the healing power of forgiveness. It begins with a struggling 25-year-old from Detroit and an 85-year-old billionaire from Beverly Hills. Their courthouse wedding shocked the world. But the real story began 7 days later, inside her mansion walls, when a locked door revealed a truth that was beyond imagination. Stay with us, as this is a tale you won't soon forget. Jamal Washington was a 25-year-old man carrying the weight of a generation on his shoulders. After his father's sudden death from COVID-19, a tragedy that devastated so many families across America, Jamal became the sole provider overnight. His world was a blur of mounting pressures. His mother, Gloria, was battling diabetes and high blood pressure, conditions that disproportionately affect our communities, and their savings had vanished into a sea of prescription costs and ER visits. His younger sister, Kesha, a brilliant senior at Howard University, was on the verge of being expelled over unpaid tuition. At 25, the lines of stress on Jamal's face told the story of a man aged by hardship. He worked 3 jobs, door dashing by day, security by night, and backbreaking construction on weekends. His phone was a constant source of anxiety, with debt collectors calling at all hours, their threats growing more severe with each passing day. Youth was a luxury he could no longer afford. One scorching afternoon in downtown Detroit, Jamal stood outside a soul food joint, counting the crumpled bills in his hand, trying to see if he had enough for fried chicken and mac and cheese. That's when he felt it. A pair of eyes watching him. Through the tinted window of a black Rolls-Royce Phantom, a woman stared at him with unnerving intensity. This was Mrs. Dorothy Williams, a legend in the world of American business. Her empire spanned real estate, tech, and entertainment, a dynasty built from the ground up. Draped in designer clothes and adorned with diamonds that shimmered even in the shade, her power was palpable. The chauffeur opened her door, and Mrs. Williams emerged with the grace and authority of a queen. She was 85, but she moved with the purpose of a woman half her age. She walked directly to Jamal. "You are Jamal Washington, aren't you?" she asked, her voice a refined blend of southern warmth and boardroom steel. Jamal was stunned. "Yes, ma'am. How do you know my name?" Her eyes, sharp and intelligent, scanned him from head to toe. "I know about your mother's medical bills," she said calmly. "I know about your sister's tuition at Howard. I know about the debt that is drowning you. And I know you haven't had a full night's sleep in months." Jamal's heart hammered against his ribs. "Who are you? How do you know this?" A mysterious smile touched her lips. "I am the woman who can change your destiny, but my help comes with one condition." She paused, letting the weight of her next words settle in the thick summer air. "You must marry me." The world around Jamal went silent. "Ma'am, you want me to marry you? This is not a joke, young man," she stated, her tone leaving no room for doubt. "This is a business proposal. You agree to marry me, and all your problems disappear. Your mother will receive treatment at the finest private hospital in the country. Your sister's education will be secured, with a prestigious job waiting for her upon graduation. Your family's debts will be erased. You will be given a life of comfort you can only dream of." Jamal felt dizzy. "And what would I have to do in return?" "Marry me," she repeated. "Legally. After that, you will live in my home, but you will have your freedom. There are, of course, certain terms." Before he could process the sheer insanity of the moment, she handed him an elegant business card with gold lettering and returned to her Rolls-Royce. As her convoy disappeared into Detroit traffic, Jamal stood paralyzed, clutching the card, wondering if he had met an angel or a devil. Days later, his world collapsed. Loan sharks showed up at their small apartment, giving them 48 hours to pay up. The hospital called, refusing to continue his mother's treatment without payment, and Kesha called, crying, saying she was being suspended from Howard. That night, with his back against the wall, Jamal made the call. The wedding at the Los Angeles County Courthouse was a surreal affair, attended by politicians and moguls Jamal had only seen on TV. Suddenly, he was thrust into a world of incomprehensible luxury. The Beverly Hills mansion was less a home and more a palace, with Italian marble floors, million-dollar artwork, and a staff that moved like silent ghosts. The household staff, mostly young, beautiful women, treated Mrs. Dorothy with a reverence that bordered on fear. They addressed her as Mrs. Williams and never made eye contact unless spoken to. They were polite to Jamal, but their answers were always brief, their smiles strained, as if they were afraid of showing any warmth that might displease their employer. Jamal and Dorothy's relationship was just as formal. They dined together each evening in a grand hall, two strangers at opposite ends of a long table, the silence broken only by the clinking of silverware on fine china. She would often watch him, her eyes holding secrets he couldn't begin to decipher. He soon noticed the mansion's peculiarities. On the second floor, a heavy oak door secured with multiple electronic locks was always sealed, guarded 24/7 by private security. Whenever he asked about it, the staff would give the same chilling reply, "Mr. Washington, that area is restricted. For Mrs. Williams only." One night, curiosity got the better of him. He saw a light on in her private wing and crept closer. Through a slightly ajar window, he heard her on the phone. The words were muffled, but the tone was unmistakable. It wasn't the voice of an 85-year-old woman. It was younger, filled with a fiery passion and an energy that sent a shiver down his spine. Who was she? What secrets were hidden in this house and behind that locked door? Standing in the darkness, Jamal knew his life wasn't a fairy tale. It was a meticulously planned operation, and he was determined to find out why. A week after the wedding, Jamal decided it was time to fulfill his side of the bargain. He approached Aisha, Mrs. Dorothy's stunning 24-year-old personal assistant. "Aisha," he began, "I wish to spend some private time with my wife tonight. Could you ask her if that's acceptable?" Aisha's professional mask slipped, replaced by a genuine smile. "Of course, Mr. Washington. She will be so pleased. She speaks of you often." Minutes later, she returned. "Mrs. Williams is very excited, sir. She asks that you come to her private quarters at 10 p.m. That evening, Jamal's heart pounded with a mix of duty and determination. He was going to get answers. When Dorothy opened the door, he was speechless. Gone was the stern businesswoman. Before him stood a woman in elegant silk loungewear, her skin glowing under the soft light, her movements fluid and youthful. The transformation was so staggering. He wondered if this was the same person he had married. "Jamal, my dear," she said, her voice a soft, melodious hum. "I've been waiting for this moment." The room was an intimate sanctuary, filled with the scent of jasmine and the soft melody of a jazz piano. "Mrs. Williams," Jamal said, his voice barely a whisper, still stunned by her radiance. "You look like a different person." She glided closer, a mysterious smile playing on her lips. "Age is just a number, Jamal, but being truly seen by someone, that can make a soul feel timeless. For decades, men have looked at me and seen only my wealth or my power. You are the first to look at me with simple human kindness." Jamal sat on an elegant sofa, and she sat beside him, the formal distance that had defined their marriage evaporating in the warm glow of the room. "I have to be honest," Jamal confessed, finding a courage he didn't know he had. "I came into this for my family, but being here with you now, I realize there is so much more to you than the world knows." A glimmer of moisture appeared in her eyes. "I have waited my entire life," she whispered, "for someone to want to know the woman, not the legend. I have loved before, and I have lost, but my heart still beats with hope." Impulsively, Jamal reached out and took her hand. It was surprisingly soft and warm, not the hand of a cold tycoon, but of a woman who held a lifetime of stories. "Tell me," he said gently, "tell me about the real you." And so she did. As the night deepened, the walls of the mansion seemed to fall away. Dorothy spoke of her beginnings in Alabama, building a catering business from nothing while facing the brutal realities of racism and sexism. She spoke of the loneliness that came with success, of betrayals that had hardened her heart. In turn, Jamal opened up about his own life. He spoke not just of his struggles, but of his dreams. Of one day starting a business, of seeing his sister break generational curses, of his fear that he wasn't strong enough to be the man his family needed. They found common ground in their experiences as Black Americans fighting for their place in the world. As dawn broke over the Hollywood hills, they were no longer a billionaire and her young husband. They were two souls who had found an unexpected connection, a fragile trust built in the quiet hours of the night. But even as this new bond formed, the mystery of the locked room remained, a dark shadow in the back of Jamal's mind. 3 days later, his opportunity came. Mrs. Dorothy flew to New York for an urgent board meeting. The mansion was quiet. His heart pounding, Jamal made his way to the forbidden second floor. To his shock, the heavy oak door was slightly ajar. He pushed it open and stepped inside. The air was still, thick with the scent of old paper and perfume. The room was a shrine, a museum dedicated to a single, consuming memory. The walls were covered in photographs, old newspaper clippings, and framed letters. But it was the collection of photos on a central table that stole his breath. In one, a vibrant, younger Mrs. Dorothy stood smiling, deeply in love, and standing beside her, his arm wrapped around her, was a face Jamal knew better than his own. It was his father, Marcus Washington. His hands trembled as he picked up another photo, then another. His father and Dorothy, laughing at a gala. His father and Dorothy, holding hands on a beach. And then, a stack of love letters, written in his father's familiar script, promising a future, promising marriage. A floorboard creaked behind him. "So," a voice said low and steady, "you've finally discovered the truth." Jamal spun around. Mrs. Dorothy stood in the doorway, her expression unreadable. There was no surprise, no anger. Only the chilling calm of someone whose 40-year-old plan had finally reached its climax. "This marriage," Jamal stammered, his mind reeling from the betrayal. "It was never about me. It was about him. It was about revenge." Dorothy stepped into the room, closing the door behind her. "You're more perceptive than your father was," she said, her voice turning to ice. "I loved him with every fiber of my being. For 5 years, we built a life. I trusted him with my heart, my secrets, my empire. And when I proposed marriage, he humiliated me. He told me he could never be with a woman so much older, that the world would see him as a gold digger. He broke my heart, and he broke my pride." Her eyes locked onto Jamal's, burning with a pain that had festered for decades. "That day I made a vow," she hissed. "If I could not have Marcus Washington, I would have his blood. I have watched your family for years, waiting for the perfect moment of desperation. This marriage, your family's salvation, it was all designed to be my ultimate revenge. I was going to make you utterly dependent on me, and then I was going to destroy you, just as your father destroyed me." She took a step closer, her composure finally cracking. "But something happened that I never planned for. Something impossible." Tears began to stream down her face, tears of rage and confusion. "Your kindness, your respect. You treated me with a dignity your father never could. You healed a part of me I thought was dead forever." She looked at him, her entire empire and her life's vengeful purpose crumbling around her. "My revenge has turned on me," she sobbed, her voice breaking. "I am now a prisoner of the very love I sought to mock. I am no longer your captor, Jamal. I have become a captive to your goodness." Jamal stood frozen, caught between the pain of her deception and the raw tragedy of her broken heart. In that moment, he had to make a choice, not as her husband, not as his father's son, but as the man he was becoming. He took a deep breath and made a decision that no one, least of all Dorothy, ever saw coming. "I forgive you," Jamal said, his voice firm but gentle. Dorothy looked up, shocked. "How? After the lies, the manipulation? Broken people do broken things," he replied, closing the distance between them. "But I have seen your heart, Dorothy. The woman I've gotten to know these past few weeks. That is the real you. Your plan failed because the goodness in you was stronger than the hate. From that day on, their marriage, born from a scheme of revenge, was reborn in the light of forgiveness. The secrets were gone, replaced by a profound and honest partnership. Dorothy taught Jamal the intricacies of her empire, not as a pawn, but as her chosen successor. 6 months later, she fell gravely ill. As she lay in her final weeks, she made Jamal the sole heir to her vast fortune. "I have no regrets," she whispered, holding his hand. "You healed me, Jamal. You taught me that love is always stronger than revenge." At her funeral, Jamal stood before the world, no longer a boy from Detroit, but a man of substance and grace. He held the photograph of his father and Dorothy. "May you find peace, Dorothy," he said softly, "and may you both forgive each other." But the story doesn't end in sorrow. It ends with new beginnings. Aisha, Dorothy's loyal assistant, had stood by Jamal's side through it all. Their shared journey of grief and responsibility slowly blossomed into a deep, respectful love. A year later, they married, and the mansion, once a palace of secrets, became a home filled with laughter and light. Jamal honored Dorothy's legacy not by hoarding her wealth, but by using it to uplift others. He created foundations that supported struggling Black families, funded scholarships at HBCUs, and invested in communities that, like his own, had been left behind. The empire built on one woman's ambition and pain was transformed by one man's compassion into a force for generational change. This timeless tale from Africa and its diaspora teaches us a powerful truth. A heart, no matter how wounded, can be healed. Revenge may seem powerful, but its victory is always empty. It is forgiveness that holds the power to transform our lives, to turn our deepest pain into our greatest purpose. What began as a trap became Jamal's greatest blessing. And in a heart that had known only bitterness for 40 years, true love was finally reborn. If this story of redemption and unexpected love touched your heart, please like this video, share it with someone who needs to hear it, and subscribe to Afrika Timeless Tales for more stories that inspire and uplift the soul. Thank you for watching. Remember, it is not how our journey begins that defines us, but the choices we make to love, to forgive, and to heal along the way.